Going live. Can you hear me? I wonder if my audio is glitching. Can anyone hear me? I can see you, Dad. I'm glad you can hear me. Because I'm trying a new setup today, so I have a new angle, which I'm all excited about. I actually have my laptop like bungee corded up, hanging from the ceiling like Mission Impossible. And I'm trying a new microphone that my cousin Dana helped me test out, so exciting. Sounds good. I hope it sounds good anyway. It sounds good to me. And then I have this nice flattering downwards angle as well. Very excited. Eventually I'll have 100% amazing YouTube video because I'm also going to test out using my SLR, my digital SLR camera for live streaming, and then I'll be super pro. Very cool. So I'm just gonna get started because too much talking and not enough eating, not so good. So today I'm making a recipe, a traditional Italian recipe. So last week when I did my live video, I had an old friend of mine from Italy reach out and he suggested to make this recipe. So we're gonna try it because it's super easy, it's super cheap, and I'm gonna give you guys some really awesome tips on how to reduce your food waste all in one recipe. Plus it's delicious, so this is great. So the recipe we're making today is a traditional Panzanella salad. So what Panzanella salad is traditionally they would use day old or sort of a little bit stale Italian bread loaves like baguette or the round Italian loaves. And they want to use that old bread up and not let it go to waste. And in the traditional recipe, I think if it was really stale, they'd soak it with water to soften it up and then use it in a salad. But we're making a nice vinaigrette, and I don't have any day old fancy Italian loaf, so we aren't going to soak it in water. So we are going to go ahead and get started. But for this recipe, you're going to need fresh basil. You can't use dry for this one. You're going to need tomatoes, red onion, and cucumber. I'm going to be putting a little sweet pepper in mine. You can put sort of any fresh vegetables you want. And then for the vinaigrette, it's super simple, but it ends up tasting delicious. So for that, we are using our olive oil. So any good olive oil and red wine vinegar. So when I was looking up this recipe, some traditional recipes have white wine vinegar and some have red. And I just like the flavor of red better. So we're going to use that. And we're getting a different flavor than balsamic vinegar, but it's not so plain and astringent as white vinegar. So you want either red wine or white wine vinegar. And then you're going to need some Dijon mustard, or any kind of mustard that you have. Even the plain yellow mustard will do in a pinch, or any kind of sort of condiment you might have. And what that's going to do in the vinaigrette is bind it all together so that you don't just have the olive oil and vinegar, which I think is the traditional thing, is just olive oil and vinegar. And then of course, nutritional yeast, and that will actually work in the vinaigrette as well, to bind it together. If you don't have any mustard or you don't want to put Dijon mustard in, the nutritional yeast will thicken it up and sort of pull it all in together so it sticks to all the ingredients. And then the other thing that you need for your recipe is the bread. And so what I'm using is just some plain bread from the grocery store. So here we can go ahead and get started. We're going to make the vinaigrette first and then put the salad together. And I'm going to try my cool, watch this. Dun, 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 dun. Now you can see all my ingredients. This is amazing. So we're going to make the vinaigrette first. And I am actually making a half portion of this recipe because there's just two of us eating. So you can usually make a bigger one. So we're going to start with our olive oil, which I'm doing a 1/4 cup. You can do a bit less and more vinegar if you want to be careful with your oil. But the rest of the meal is pretty healthy, so this is fine. And then we're going to do a tablespoon and a half of the vinegar. So I have this measuring spoon, which is already a tablespoon and a half. There we go. Actually, you know what? I don't like the ratio of what I'm looking at, so I'm actually going to put a little bit more so we can get a better ratio of vinegar to olive oil there. And then we will put, I'm just putting half a teaspoon, but if you really love the flavor of Dijon, then you can put more in. Whoa, that's too much for me. Yuck. Okay, so we'll just put that much in. Again, we're just using the mustard to like bind everything together, so you can do whatever you like. And then I'm just gonna do about a teaspoon of nutritional yeast. That's all you need. And the nutritional yeast is also gonna give it like a more savory flavor. And in true Christine fashion, I forgot to tell you about an ingredient, which is chopped garlic. So there you go. So it's super easy. And one thing I love, like I've bought a lot of kitchen gadgets and then never used it again. But if you can get one of these teeny tiny whisks, they're actually really awesome for mixing sauces. And it makes you feel kind of cool. So you're gonna mix that together. And what we're looking for is just for the oil to come together and stick to everything so it's not separated. And actually it's making like a kind of a cool pink color because of the red wine vinegar and the Dijon mustard. The other thing you could do with this is throw it all in a jar and put the lid on and shake it up. So that's pretty much it. There's our salad dressing. So we'll put that aside for a second here. And then, so yeah, this recipe was what I read was traditionally sort of a down-home farmer's sort of recipe. So simple ingredients that you can get out of the garden, and then using up the day-old bread. So instead of having day-old bread, which would be nice and crusty for the salad, I just toasted some of my regular bread. But what I did was I used one of the ends of the bread. So no one likes to have like the ends of the bread when you're having your breakfast. So use it for making croutons or for making a salad like this. And we've made them a little crusty. And then the idea is that the vinaigrette will soak everything up. So that's one of the first tips, is to use the ends of the bread for this recipe. So you're reducing your waste there. And then we'll move on. We've got actually we'll start with the bowl so we can get started. So I did 1 sweet pepper cut into little chunks. And another thing when you're cooking salad or any dish is to try to cut everything that you're using to the same size so that when you're eating it, you can get the same amount of each ingredient in your mouth. So that's another tip, is to cut everything in the same size. And it's more enjoyable to eat it. But to reduce food waste, you want to use as much of this pepper as possible, right? So here I have the pepper here. But always remember to cut off the end, and then you can cut it into the same size pieces. And then these little corners here have a lot of veggie still stuck to it, so make sure you cut off those too. And then all you're really throwing out is this little kind of mangled piece at the end. And another tip I didn't even write down is save all your veggie scraps in the freezer for to make your own veggie stock as well. So anyway, we have our pepper there. And then there's not much you can do to reduce waste with an onion, but we have our red onion chopped up again in a similar sort of chunk. And the only tip I can kind of give about onions is that when you are cutting them, and if you want to reduce the tears that come when you're chopping, so rinse your knife in water first and then chop your onions. So we're going to throw those in. Now we have our tomatoes. So there is going to be some liquid that the bread is going to soak up. That's the whole point. But you don't want your bread swimming, and especially if you're going to make this in advance, you don't want it to get soggy. You just want it to be nice and even. So I've used a Roma tomato because Roma tomatoes have less seeds and juice and stuff. So we're going to use those. But my other food waste reducing tip, so you cut up your tomato and you have this top end. And I've seen a lot of people throw it away, but what I do is just cut it off like that. And then all you're throwing away is that teeny tiny piece. And I also have the butt end of the tomato chopped up in there too. So don't throw that stuff away. So those are gonna go in, all our tomatoes. And then we have our cucumbers. So again, not much you can save by doing a special tip here, but if you have a cucumber that has too many seeds in it and you don't want your salad to get super soggy, so you cut your cucumber lengthwise in quarters, and what you can do is just cut the seeds off just like that. Or if you have, if you're picky, or if you have a partner or kids that are picky and they don't like the seeds, you can just cut it off and then chop it up. So those are all gonna go in to our bowl. There we go. So that is the main part of our salad there. And the best part of this salad is fresh basil. So again, I wouldn't try to make it with, you could put maybe some dried basil in the vinaigrette, but don't try to make the rest of the salad with basil. But I really wanted to show you guys this. So Frank and I have built our own hydroponic tower, and we've kind of let it go wild. We're actually probably going to clean it out. But I went out today to harvest some basil, and I got this piece of basil. It's like the size of my head. It's massive. So I guess this is what nice, expensive, organic, hydroponic nutrients do to your basil. So usually in the salad, you would use like around 10 to 15 like normal size leaves of basil, but we're just going to use 2 of these. They look like ears. So we're going to use these to put in our salad. So let me cut this up for you guys. So let's get rid of that tomato. So one tip for basil or any kind of fresh herbs that you're gonna slice up, there's some tips for that. So you're gonna get them all and pile them like in a pile. So whatever you're cutting, cut it together like that. And then one thing you want to make sure is that you dry off your knife, right? And then you also want to make sure that your cutting board is dry. And what that'll do is it'll make sure that when you're cutting it, that the leaves all don't stick together, and then you can't sort of sprinkle it nicely in your salad. So you want to make sure, one, that your knife is dry and that your cutting board is dry and that your herbs are dry. So the herbs we have out on the tower don't touch anything, so we didn't even need to really rinse it. So these are quite clean. And usually if you have a regular size basil leaves, you're just going to start rolling it. And what that is called when you cut it, when it's rolled, is a chiffonade cut, and it cuts it in ribbons. But these are gigantic, so what we're going to do is cut them in half, and then we're going to pile them. So you want to pile them up, and then you want to do like a tight roll, and you're going to get a roll like that. And then you're going to use a rocking motion like this to cut them into strips. So again, the best thing is that everything is dry. So then everything is loose. It's not sticking together or whatever. So if you have fresh herbs that have kind of gone like gooey, the best thing to do is either like chop them up and you can put them in olive oil and then freeze them in ice cube trays for cooking later, or just let them dry out completely in a dark, dry place and then use them as dried herbs. But this is the best for getting that loose, that really nice loose herbs. They smell fantastic. All right, so what we're gonna do is now assemble the salad. So again, this is a simple recipe, great for the summer. You don't have to cook anything. You just have to fry up the bread a little bit. It's not a big deal. And then you have this really simple, quick salad. And if you ate like a whole salad, this would fill you up, or you can have it as a side salad. So I'm just gonna mix this up a bit. And then we're gonna put our bread in. Because remember, the tradition is that the vinaigrette and the juices from the veggies are going to soak up the bread. And I've got like a really nice whole grain bread with, I think it's a quinoa flax bread. So I've got protein in there. I've got protein in my veggies, and I've got my whole grains. So we've done that. And what I'm going to do is dress it and then toss the herbs in so that they don't get too yucky or too gooey. Or if you're serving this, what would be really nice is to serve some of the herbs on the side, and then people can put as much as they want on. So we've got our vinaigrette, our little pink looking vinaigrette. I'm going to dump that on. A little garlic in there. And you can see that everything, because we put the mustard and the nutritional yeast, everything is like sticking together. And we're going to toss again a little bit. And then the dressing is going to stick to everything and not just like pool down at the bottom of your bowl, right? Oh, I love the colors in this. Another thing I saw is that you can, if you want, put olives or capers on it, but I'm not a fan of those, so I'm going to leave it. Then we're going to put all of the herbs in. Another thing that I would put in here to sneak it in is maybe some finely chopped kale. Got to get your greens in. Oh, yeah. So, and then if you wanted to, you could kind of serve it with some cool basil on top, just like that. So super easy. Again, you've got tons of nutrients from the veggies. You've got a little bit of oil for some fat. You've got your whole grain bread that you've used with tons of protein in it. So it's pretty fantastic. So this is my favorite part. I don't know if it's your favorite part, but the taste test. And you can, again, if you have like a vinaigrette, I have like a grainy mustard maple vinaigrette, or if you have a preferred vinaigrette recipe, I had some at a friend's house the other day that had a bit of like olive oil in it. And she put some of those like fried up onions on top. Like you can kind of do what you like with that. So there we've got our colorful salad. Let's see. I want to see how all the flavors got together. So I've got an onion, cucumber, pepper, bread. All right, I think. Nope, I don't have a pepper. Hold on. I have to get everything in one bite. Okay, now I have a tomato. So now we have everything all in one bite. We've got our basil in there. And we've got our crusty bread. So this could probably sit for like 10 or 15 minutes before people eat. But it's better not to let the bread get too soggy. Here we go. That's so good. I really like that I used the grainy bread because when I toasted it, all the grains and stuff in the bread are like giving it like a nutty, really nice flavor. And then I actually put a little bit of nutritional yeast on the bread when I was cooking it too, so you've got a savory flavor in here instead of just the vinaigrette. And definitely a better flavor with the red wine vinegar instead of balsamic or white vinegar, because balsamic or white vinegar would be like really tart and like overpower everything. But this is pretty good. Look at that. I think Frank's on the watching, but I might eat this all. So good. So definitely try this recipe out. Use your own vinaigrette. Make it your own. Add your olives if you want, or your capers. Get a different flavor in there, but super easy way to use up some veggies that you have. And I hope the tips for reducing the food waste were really good, because you don't want to be wasting food. So thank you so much for watching. I'm so glad my technology was great today. And maybe next time I'll have an even better video quality with my SLR camera. So don't forget to like this video. It'll post in a few hours. Share it with your friends. Tell them to subscribe. Ooh, so excited I knocked the pan over. And any activity at all on the YouTube page really supports me and helps me, so I really appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for joining me. This is so much fun that I've been doing this since March or April, and everyone always joins me, so I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to end the live stream now. Bye. Enjoy your dinner.